Hi, good evening. Welcome to Neighborhood News. I'm John Sylvia. Carlos has another engagement tonight, so I'm doing this solo. I do have a guest, but if you probably saw me at the last show, I was kind of throwing out there what we can all do to help. And I don't know, maybe last week you did do some good things. So I think it's something that we all have to do. And this kind of falls in line to the guest I have tonight, Greg Nawrocki from the St. Anne's Neighborhood. So we know about trying to help out with the city and stuff like that, and it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't, no.
It doesn't hurt. I mean, and you can basically whatever time you have, whoever is dealing with that project appreciates every minute. So so consider volunteering for some of these projects, and we're going to go over some of them today. So welcome, Greg.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Great. So a lot of folks don't know we received, I think it was 5 neighborhoods, right?
5 different neighborhoods.
Yeah, received a $2,000 grant,
Love Your Block grant.
Thank you, I get that confused all the time. And basically, I just wanted to speak tonight about what some of the neighborhoods are doing. And Greg is here by default. He's the only one that could show up. We had a couple of cancellations. So one thing, the person was even here and had to go home on an emergency. So I'm glad he stayed, because I would have had to talk by myself the whole time. So
I got you
so
covered.
You.
We're good.
So part of that grant, that $2,000 grant, it was Niagara Neighborhood, Flint, and also the St. Anne's Neighborhood group. I believe it was also Bank Street
and Father Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you should see some new things going on in those neighborhoods, but I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. But I know I have an idea what Greg's neighborhood's going to do in ours, and we're going to just talk about that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
So we've got a couple of ideas out there of what we want to do, because part of the stipulation was that the money was going to go back into the neighborhood, and that it was volunteer driven. So we have 3 projects in mind for our kind of hunk of the grant. So the first thing is Kennedy Park's actually going to be getting a couple of new signs identifying it as Kennedy Park. Cool. Not from the grant, but those are going to be put up. We're going to choose the locations, upper and lower. And we're going to be using some of the grant money to purchase some plantings and some flowers to go around that. And of course, we're going to be calling upon all of our volunteers to come and help us plant and actually maintain those things. People do, plant trees all the time, but you need people to maintain it and water it and all that. So
I hear you.
we have this. We come up with a schedule, and people go out there with their buckets, and they make sure everything stays maintained. So we're very excited about that. And if you've driven through the neighborhood recently, over the past probably 2 years, you've been seeing a lot of our neighborhood banners going up on the telephone poles. We have about 50 banners up right now. And we're selling more, so if you're interested in details, you can go to our website, which is stannesneighborhood.com. But we have another order going in. This is probably going to be our final order, but we're going to use some of the Love Your Block grant money to purchase some new banners. And all of our banners are sponsored by either families or businesses in the city. And we're going to take some of that money, and we'll indicate that it was from the Love Your Block grant. Right on the banner. And then finally, our vice president of the neighborhood association, who's Melanie Leet, she has identified where all of the fire hydrants are in our neighborhood. And we are going to paint our fire hydrants. We started the project last year, and it's really incredible what a difference it makes when you just roll up your sleeves. You get a little dirty in the process, but you have a nice clean looking fire hydrant, and it really makes your whole block look very, very clean. So we're going to continue doing that.
Cool.
Very busy.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's great. And just to kind of tap onto what you previously said about the plantings and stuff like that. I think that's probably the hardest thing, as I'm on the tree planting committee, and that's probably one of the hardest things. People plant the trees, volunteers plant them, and it's just basically to say, we need someone to water these things. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and I just noticed I didn't have my mic on, so you probably can't hear me. Steve, can you hear me in there? Okay. All right. Cool. Sorry about that. Told you I have a lousy memory, guys. So anyway, So just with that, whenever you see these things a lot of times, planting, someone's maintaining those. And I know specifically there were some plantings, and I don't know if they're going to happen this year in front of City Hall.
Yes.
And that wasn't the city that was maintaining them in the years past. That was Mark Souza, who was on the tree commission with me. He owns a landscaping company, and he was doing that for the community. So basically, folks are doing this, they're volunteering, even businesses. The city can't afford some of these things, and residents and businesses are stepping up to do this. So I just wanted to get that out there on that. So.
And one thing that when it comes to plantings, this project included, but when you go to Kennedy Park, right in front of the pavilion, we have a very large planting garden, almost you could call it. And we've reached out to the Fall River Garden Club. There's so many different facets that the city has to offer, and they're more than willing to help us out.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It is. So it's a lot of things happen, I think, behind the scenes, and a lot of folks don't know how that's happening. But I think looking at something like that at Kennedy Park, the tree plantings that have gone on, people see this stuff, and it makes them feel better. Mm-hmm. Other than seeing, a park that's all messed up and there's nothing there. So I think the aesthetics make a difference in how people feel about things, and just cleaning up. And we're going to talk about the cleanup, but just cleaning up. If somebody throws something in front of your house, you pick it up. People are less likely to throw stuff if they see it's nice and clean. If they see it looks like there's a lot of junk in the street, they're more apt to do that. And I know that it's one place that I would always crack up, because Disney was like that.
Yes.
I know they have a lot of workers there, and I went to the one in California about 2 years ago. They got tons of workers there, but the whole time I was at the one in California, and I was there for 12 hours, I never saw once where somebody threw something on the ground, because they saw it so pristine. They're not going to be the one that ruins it. Mm-hmm. So I think it makes a difference in that aspect.
It's all about kind of taking pride in your city, and with the kind of the rise of the neighborhood association within Fall River, there's so many more people taking pride, and when they see the projects that are being put on, you're right. It stops them from, I was going to do this, but you know what? Everyone else is taking care of it. We don't need to rely on the city to do it.
Yeah, and I think too, Greg, and this is just my experience, I think some of this to try to get people on board, to go to neighborhood meetings or stuff like that, is that I think a lot of folks, they don't know anybody there. Mm-hmm. So you're not really rushing to do that, because you got to meet new people, and are you going to be part of that group? And I can say, that was how I felt probably 4 years back before I got involved in some of the groups. And once you get in there, you go a couple times, people they're probably feeling the same way, especially if they're new. So just something to get out there, and sparks another interest in
absolutely. I was living in my neighborhood for probably a year, and then the St. Anne's neighborhood was formed. Went to my first meeting not knowing anyone, and the folks within my neighborhood now are some of my best friends. So it's just takes a couple meetings just to get to know who's there.
Yeah. So that's good. So on that, we have a citywide cleanup.
We sure do.
And I know you guys have a big park.
We do. We have the largest park in the city, where there's a lot to maintain there.
So it's always fun when you guys have your cleanup, right?
Yes, it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of effort. Melanie, our vice president, puts a ton of effort into our cleanups. She's kind of our go-to girl to make sure that she organizes all the different groups. We work with so many different groups volunteer. For example, the Rotary came out one year to help us, and the Marine Cadets come out every year. And Melanie kind of organizes who's going to go where. She has them tackle certain projects, and we don't mess with her. Yeah. She decides everything, and we show up and we pick up and we pitch it and we clean that park.
Come on, Melanie's not bad.
No, I call her warden on cleanup days. So.
All right. Okay, sorry, Melanie. I didn't say that, he did. Yeah, so I know a lot of what happened. We had it canceled because of weather last weekend.
Yes, yeah.
So I believe all the information, all the folks that were going to do it before are doing it again. The locations may have changed with some. We might be changing our location in Niagara. We usually do Pulaski Park, but we might tackle the traffic islands on Brayton Avenue that we adopted a few years back. So. But on the whole, it's on the mayor's Facebook page. I believe it's on the website. He has a website, so I believe
It'll
it's there
be on
too,
the city
so,
website,
yeah.
and if you search Facebook for Fall River Citywide Cleanup, there's an event page out there as well.
Yeah, so this is a opportunity to get involved. You don't have to spend a long time there, especially if you're new, so you could spend a half hour, nobody's going to come yelling at you.
Absolutely.
So, and it's a way to get your feet wet to try to make a difference in the city. And it's funny because I don't know if you saw that. There was a video that's out on Facebook by Drew Furtado.
I haven't seen it. It was all over Facebook today. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to watch it tonight.
And it really talked about a lot of negativity. And I understand it's very hard to be positive with some of the issues, but these issues that we deal with are nationwide. We might have it worse than other folks, but it's a nationwide problem. And to see that video, it just to me at the end of it brings hope that you just got to stay on track and things will get better. If we don't stay on track and try to improve things, we know what the result's going to be. So yeah, if you get a chance, I've already seen it twice.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to watch it. I saw a few people post it, so that's on the agenda for this evening.
Yeah, cool. And the other big thing that you guys, I'll go back to what we're going to do in ours, but the other big thing that you guys have is your playground, your inclusive playground.
Yes.
So I've seen a lot of things.
Yes.
Seen a lot of things going around about it,
and one thing that you'll find is that no one from the St. Anne's neighborhood will ever get sick of talking about our playground because it's been years and years of work and late nights up and picking designs, and there's hundreds and thousands of people that have heard our presentation about how the inclusive playground came to be. The good news is that we are 95% complete with that playground, and people have been going to Kennedy Park and saying, it looks finished, why is it all fenced off? It's almost done. We just are waiting for the flooring to go down. And people say, well, flooring's wood chips, but we didn't do wood chips. We did special concussion drop flooring, and it's very expensive, but it is worth it. Because it's going to be a very safe playground. So just give us a couple more weeks. We're almost there, and we are tentatively planning mid-June for a big ribbon cutting cookout.
Cool.
We've got some surprises up our sleeves for that. Cool. I can leave it at that.
Oh, that sounds good. Great. Sounds great. Out of curiosity, that flooring, how long does that last? Does that last like 20 years, 30 years?
Oh, that is. I want to say it's even more than 30 years.
So that's actually better than the wood chips.
Oh, absolutely.
The wood chips, they're thrown out after a while. You have to keep on refilling.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So great.
And I went to a playground recently in Rhode Island, and it was kind of a combination of the wood chips and this concussion drop flooring. And all I could think to myself was, it was honestly kind of messy to have it that way. And I was thinking, that was at Roger Williams, and here we are in Fall River. We're going to have an even bigger playground with the entire surface covered in this concussion drop flooring. And if you haven't had a chance to go look at this playground, it literally, I was saying the other day when we were there, we were taking a look at it, for 2.5 years, we've been looking at this in drawings. And it literally has come to life in front of our eyes, and it's almost emotional to see it finally happen. So we're very excited. In a couple weeks, we'll be opening it. Everyone can play on it, and we'll do the big ribbon cutting and all that fun stuff in June.
Cool. So it came out for good in the end,
It sure did.
So,
it sure
great.
did. We're very excited about it.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to talk about real quick what we're doing with the grant. Basically, we had about 15 banners like you guys have, but they're not going to be the same as yours. Mm-hmm. But we had 15 donated, and what we're going to do is we're going to buy 15 more and place them around the neighborhood. And we're also going to have a family day and incorporate like a volunteer section to that. We're going to try to do some stuff in the park, so do some cleanup around the park, and then have a cookout afterward. So I think that'll be great. It hasn't been done in our neighborhood in a while, so I think that'll be great to get that together. So.
And maybe, hopefully, some people who are interested in the neighborhood association will use that as an opportunity to come get to know what's going on and how they can get involved themselves.
I agree. I hope that, we had, and you guys have probably done the same thing. We've gone to some of the family nights at the different schools, and specifically the Green School, which is our neighborhood school, and we did get 1 or 2 folks from that, from those outreach nights that we did. So that did work out well, but yeah, and I understand when my child was younger, you have all these things going on. It's very hard.
Yep.
You're just trying to figure out how you're gonna, work, get all these things accomplished in your family. So, but sometimes that's a kind of a good thing to break away and get some free time, because you can do things on your own there too.
Yeah.
So cool.
And one thing that we, and I believe that you do it, is the Pride and Property Awards.
Yep.
And so for the past couple of years, we've awarded in June, July, and August an award to some of our neighbors who take pride in the way their property looks, their curb appeal. And a few people have won it who didn't know about the neighborhood association. So it's a chance for us to kind of say, hey, we've got a neighborhood association. We're recognizing you for doing such great things in our neighborhood. By the way, come to our meeting too.
Yeah. We did the same thing, and everybody we went to, they were like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it. So we get folks to join our Facebook page, which was great, and we put stuff on this, so they're following it in that aspect. But yeah, it's another way to kind of recruit folks, and a lot of folks are just kind of like, wow, you picked my house. This is great. So it is a good program, and it's anything to just kind of reward people. And sometimes we all know that when you give people things like food, when at work when we have conferences, if you don't have food there, you can't get people to come.
Exactly. Some sort of incentive
to get folks in there. So that's a good thing. And like you were saying earlier, I believe the neighborhoods have kind of brought some things together and created more advocacy in the city. So I think that's been a great thing.
I think so. And I think that, what it does, these groups, it gives people the courage to say something. If they see something, they can say something now. It bridges that gap between, the citizens of the city and the administration of the city, and it gives us a voice.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've participated in the mayor's roundtables and things like that. It's a great opportunity for us.
No, it makes a difference, and I think people don't think, things happen. Everything that you request or say, hey, this, that, the other thing, it can't be done. But I've always said this at work: choose your battles wisely, or what you want to do that's important to you, and really kind of hammer that home, and people will listen. I think part of my frustration with Fall River, and I've lived here for like 30-something years now, is when we have things happen, nobody seems to know, and then it's put into place and everybody's surprised. And this is not anything I haven't mentioned before. And the example I've given before is the contamination meeting. DEP came down, had a meeting at City Hall, and there were 13 people there, which I think is sad.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people watch this on TV, but I've told many people, if this happened in Mattapoisett, Fairhaven, Dartmouth, Westport, Somerset, Swansea, you wouldn't even be able to get into that chamber.
Yeah.
It would have been packed, and we had 13 people. So, what happens, I think, a lot of times is, people look at things, and if nobody complains, they don't think it's a big issue, so they're just going to go with whatever. I mean, that's how the zoning board is half the time. Nobody shows up, they're like, all right, pass it. Where if you get out there and show that you're not in support, and you have a logical reason as to why, they listen. So you got to give folks that. They do listen. And,
it's nice to see people kind of taking the opportunity to educate themselves about whatever the issue it happens to be in the city, whether it's what you brought up or an election or anything like that. It's always important that they're educating themselves.
No, I agree, and we do have a lot of folks doing that. I just really wish that we had more participation, because I think that's really a big issue. If we had more participation, it would change things, because you don't have maybe 10 people complaining about it. Now you have 200 people complaining about it, and they're going to listen. We know that here in Fall River too. If you have that chamber of council full, they listen.
Yes.
If there's 13 people there, I guess people don't care about it.
Yep,
So
you're right. You're absolutely
it's kind of our, this is our city basically, and And the politicians run this, but they run this based on what we say. And sometimes I think that's to our detriment, because sometimes people don't want what's good for them too.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
They're just looking at this point. And I've always said, sometimes if you're in office, you got to make the tough decision, and sometimes it's not what people want.
It's not always going to be the decision that gets you reelected.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's difficult, especially on this 2-year election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we have a few more minutes besides the neighborhood thing. I'm just going to get your impression, because you're a lot younger than me, and your impression as a young person living here in Fall River. My opinion basically is that I think we really need to bring in young people, like what they've done in Providence, what they've done in certain neighborhoods in Boston, like Jamaica Plain, High Park, and any number of sections of different cities in New York, where folks have come in and they're into the arts, or even just young people. They come in and they change that whole neighborhood.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that we want to change everything and get rid of things here, but I think when you get folks in here, that spurs these coffee shops and all these other things that you would see in the big city.
Exactly. And I can tell you, just from my experience, I was born and raised in Fall River, and I moved to Orlando for 4 years, and really couldn't wait to come back to Fall River. But with what I do now, I have the opportunity to travel, and I can go to New York City. I go to Boston a lot. I go to Washington, D.C. a few times a year, and I see these big cities, and I come home and I just think about what the potential is we have here in Fall River and what we could do. But you're right, it's groups that come in. A great example of this would be downtown Providence. Down City Providence has this fantastic revitalization going on right now. There's companies like Cornish Associates that are out there, and they are buying these buildings, they're refurbishing these buildings and putting coffee shops and bookstores and those little things which people don't think that makes a difference, but it absolutely does. Yeah. It absolutely makes a difference. Yeah. And it brings people into the city to spend money, and they can experience the city and see the culture that we have here. And it boosts our population. That's what we need in the city, and there's so much potential on our waterfront in downtown that we're not taking advantage of right now, and we absolutely need to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny, Newport, for example, my wife works there. Newport in the 70s, and this is probably before your time, I was a young kid too, but Newport, when the Navy pulled out of there, that was like a ghost town, because Newport was always this kind of, that was where all the sailors went and they got tattoos.
Yep.
Back then, tattoos aren't how they are now. You know what I mean? It was different back then. So it was kind of a little shady in Newport. And then what happened was the Navy did come back to a point, but they really went to the tourist part.
Yes.
And they really brought that whole city back, and everybody in this area likes Newport. I even own a timeshare there, which sounds crazy, but
and it's so funny. I work in downtown Newport. My job is to sell Newport as a destination, and that's when I'm traveling for work. It's to bring people to Newport, yeah. and when you say where you're coming from, yeah. people just light up.
Yeah.
And we can have that in Fall River. Yep.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
no reason why we can't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've done it in Salem. Even I was for work in D.C. back in September for 2 weeks, and I went to Annapolis. Never been there before, and I'm like, yeah, it's nice. I didn't get a chance to go to the Navy Academy, which I thought would have been cool. But just walking around the area, I mean, it was not really a big area, but they had tons of people there on a Saturday. They must
tons
have been
of hotels, everything.
It's just so that stuff can happen here, but I think that, and this is just my own personal opinion, that goes back to the whole negativity portion of this. And I think it's part of the business is not moving together. I would like to see like Lizzie Borden, the Battleship, the Marine Museum get together. And you know this since you're in that travel business, that when I've gone to San Francisco or LA, you go in and you can buy this booklet, and it's like 10 things you can go to for $70.
Exactly, and that we need that here.
Yeah, I think that would be a good tool, because it works in these big cities like San Francisco, LA, Denver, I think they have it. I've been to Denver once. So it's just getting that together. And I think that since we live here, we don't see how nice things really are. So there's a few things coming together that I hope are going to change this, like the Quequechan Rail Trail.
Yes.
I think that will help people see that from 195, coming over. They're going to see that bike path. They're going to see people running on that. And I think that is going to help And I'm glad, because that's something that brings young people in again.
It is, and what I think, kind of echoing what you said, we need to eliminate the competition and work as one unit, you know. And I work for a hotel. I travel with other hotels. We're there for one goal. We want people to come to our destination.
Newport, exactly.
And we can do that here. We just need to eliminate the competition and work as one team.
And you know what's amazing? I don't know if you've seen some of these meetings. I think like the Battleship has 200,000 visitors a year.
I think,
or 150.
Yeah.
And then they said the Narrows was like 50,000, and then Lizzie Borden was around 30. So I'm thinking that's what, over 200,000 people come here a year, just on out of those places. We don't know about the restaurants. I don't know of too many places that have that many visitors there and they don't market the place at all.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
And we'll have almost a blank slate, you can say, once the 79 project is complete, to really have some great things happening down on the waterfront.
Yes, hopefully that'll turn out, because I know they had a meeting too with Ron Mellion from the Chamber of Commerce, and I also believe with Ken Fiola and a few other folks met. So hopefully with some of these brainstorming things, they can get this together. And I think that's probably been one of the issues here in the city, is that things a lot of times haven't happened in the past, and people hear these ideas and then they don't come through fruition, and we're like, all right, I don't believe anything anymore. You know? So I think it's just to see that, look, if people see this, this, and this, which I think people are starting to see a few things, maybe they'll get more confidence to believe this and jump on board with it.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
That's all we can hope for.
No, I hope so. I mean, if Newport did it, I think we can.
We absolutely can.
So, and everybody likes Newport, you know. So, and they've kind of, I think what's been helpful in Newport, and I think we could do here in Fall River, is the European tourists.
Yes.
They're the folks that spend a lot more money than the Americans here, because they don't know when they're going to come back. So they're willing to throw out extra money to see everything while they're here.
Absolutely.
So, and getting back to what you said, I go to DC a lot too. DC has the young folks, and what's funny with DC, because my office is down there, a lot of the young people, they're not living in Virginia, Maryland anymore. They're moving back into DC because of the commute.
They want to live right in downtown, and it's such a well-maintained city and clean, and you know, you can walk outside at night and you don't feel unsafe or anything like that. Exactly. I love visiting there.
And it's funny, because even the areas like Southeast and I think Northeast, which were never good areas, what's happening is the young people are coming in and they're building some kind of complex, and then the next person moves in and that starts changing the neighborhood. Not to change, you know, how it was, but just to get that equal balance in there and to turn things around. So
yeah, definitely.
That's why I'm a firm believer in that. Hopefully that's something that we could get on board with this. So
we can.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident. Yeah.
and that's what it's. I think the young kids that's what we need. I think families automatically want to move to the suburbs. You know, you get a few folks that want to live here, but on the whole, so I think going after the young population will be helpful, and hopefully then they'll stay afterward. They'll love it here so much, they'll stay.
There's no reason. We can bring them here. Plenty of shops, restaurants, all kinds of fun things we can do.
Cool. Well, that was quick, Greg. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Have a good night.